And then we'll complete this with induction of the Yone Sa. I'm sorry, but the only copy I have means that I have to put it on the plate just slightly off. Slightly off. True vertical alignment. Okay. The body position for this, of course, is the heart chakra. And the tone is Yon E Ha Um Sa. And I'll help you with that when we come to it. Okay, so bring your attention back to your breathing. Once more, reconstruct the Maharic sphere at the heart center. Inhale deeply. It won't take more than a couple of breaths to put this back again now. Inhale deeply into the heart center, pulling the Maharic frequency in, and recreate the grapefruit-sized ball of frequency there. Now just briefly focus your eyes on the Yone Sa up here on the screen. Just for a few seconds, then close your eyes again. Then inhale a pale silver cord of Maharic current from the Maharic sphere in the heart chakra to the pineal gland. Use the out breath to expand Maharic current from the cord top, forming a Maharic spark of pale silver light at the top of the cord within the pineal. Inhale, while imagining that the spark at the pineal gently separates into two smaller sparks in the pineal, and each of the small sparks draws half of the Maharic cord with it. Imagine that as each spark separates into two, the pale silver Maharic connecting the pineal to the heart chakra also separates into two smaller cords, each small cord connected at the top and the bottom. Both small cords are connected to the sphere in the heart chakra. Inhale and gently exhale. Now open your eyes and focus on the Yone Sa on the screen here. Inhale, and on the next exhale, push the sparks out on the out breath with their cords riding out on the breath to embrace the code. Inhale and exhale gently a few times, while imagining the two Maharic sparks are each absorbing the entire geometrical and mathematical content of the Yone Sa. Now inhale using the breath to withdraw the two small Maharic cords and their loaded sparks back through the optical currents into the pineal. And then rapidly exhale the two loaded sparks and their cords down from the pineal to the heart center, to the Maharic sphere in the heart center. Loading the Maharic sphere. Inhale and then exhale, using the out breath to push the loaded Maharic sphere, loaded with the code, down from the heart chakra to the Iumbi, just below the navel. Inhale and then exhale again, using the out breath to expand the Maharic sphere outward from the Iumbi until the sphere expands several feet out in the auric field, with the center firmly locked into the Iumbi point. Then inhale, using the in-breath to contract the expanded Maharic sphere back to its grapefruit-sized form within the Iumbi point. Now we'll do this tone in 4 groups of 3. Okay. Yone Ha Sa. Yone Ha Sa. Yone Ha Sa. Yone Ha Sa. Ready? Yone Ha Sa. Yone Haum Sa. Now this time, last 6, make love to this tone. Do it with feeling, really. Yone Haum Sa. Yone Haum Sa. Yone Haum Sa. Last 3. Yone Haum Sa. Yone Haum Sa. Yone Haum Sa. Okay, the positions that are relevant. There's only one, the heart chakra. Okay, so inhale, and on the out breath, imagine that on the breath, the Iombi point releases into the heart center a powerful starburst of electric blue light contained within pale blue celestite energy bubble. Silver blue bubble of energy around, vibrant electric blue. Take several inhale and out breaths. Imagine each time the Iombi releases another starburst, surrounded by silver pale blue celestite frequency. Now, just slowly and gently, as you're finishing your breathing, just slowly and gently bring your attention to the grapefruit-sized loaded sphere at the Iombi, the Maharic sphere at the Iombi point. Inhale, and then on the exhale, push the loaded sphere down into Chakra 13, Earth's core. It passes through the Maharic shield center, quickly bursts into the Maharic shield center, expands throughout the shield, just as the sphere intersects with Chakra 13. Breathe normally, observing that the loaded Maharic sphere as intersecting with Earth core has caused a radiant starburst of electric blue light. As this starburst emerges, the Maharic sphere is now beginning to shoot upward through your central vertical current up to Chakra 14, 36 inches above your head, and then rapidly descends back down through the central vertical into Earth's core. Well done. You're all primed full of the Zephyr Dun Temple mission, ready to go. So thank you all for the morning. I'm sorry that we were a little bit late for lunch, but I suggest that we reconvene as soon after 2:30 as your digestion will allow. And we'll see you this afternoon. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
We're going to be activating the rod. You know how we talked about the rod and the staff as they're in the body? The rod is the axis to the parallel self, all right, the parallel Merkaba field and the parallel shields. Excuse me. Through activating the rod, we begin to have the power to steer our Merkaba using our palms. So this is the first part of the activation of activating the rod. We'll talk more about that as we get into the hetherograms and diagrams and things. But that was given to us, and we don't have it in writing, so it's going to be, it'll come through live, which means if people scribble notes really fast, you're welcome to do that. Because usually when they come through like that, I have to go into a space where it's like complete receptivity, and I kind of get spacey feeling. You know, I don't channel, and I never will, but I go into a little bit higher consciousness, it's when faces blur and I see your astral field and study your bodies and things, to run that, you know, like the live technique and live journeys that come through. So I won't remember it. If you ask me, gee, what was the first part of that when we're done? I won't know. Right? It takes me a while to get it back down into my cellular memory. So I think we're going to be doing that sometime this evening, probably toward the end of the evening. I keep wondering, it's funny, it's one of those programs that's manifesting itself as it goes along. I wondered when we came if we were going to even have a chart pack, and we're up to 60-some pages at this point, so we're doing pretty good. But as far as time-wise, I don't know how much time what is going to take, because a lot of times there's things thrown in that I don't know we're going to be there yet. So I just hope you bear with me. There's a flexibility that's progressively, and they've been training us in this for about 2.5 years, where not being too rigidly attached to time frame. We usually manage to do pretty good, you know, as far as the worst one was the Sarasota workshop, where we had to hold up the whole first part of the workshop to get the first part of the workshop because it was all in security clearance and we were under attack at that time. It was right before the 911 pulse went through, and we actually got hit with that pulse as it was coming through on its way up to the trade towers in New York City. So that was about the worst as far as time frames falling apart around us. We're not doing too bad here. If I seem strange, it's because I'm exhausted, and I'm surprised I can still talk coherently, speak coherently, because I think I got about 2.5, 3 hours sleep, I think, while Az was working on the diagrams last night. He was doing the paste ups of the ones we had before. And then it was his turn to go to sleep and my turn to wake up, and I've been awake ever since. And I just got off the computer with the last pieces. You'll notice when you get this particular set of diagrams, the last one, it illustrates where the shields are, so you can see the position of the Rishaic shield. This is a very rough diagram. There was no time to, you know, do the paste ups on it or pull the type and all of that. So it's the drawing with the handwritten thing is scribbled in and arrows pointing. But at least it gets the idea across. The rest of them are in pretty good shape. So I guess what I'd like to start with is just a little bit of a really quick recap. And it's kind of funny, really quick recap. Usually we recap really quick stuff we've heard about 200 times before. I'm not going to recap all of the things that we covered yesterday with all of those new diagrams. Did you get your books yet? You didn't get them yet. Okay. Hello. Are they coming? Okay. Later. Okay, later. Okay, they will be here later. Well, anyway, all right, so much for books. When you get your books, it's much easier. Like there's all these little print all over the place that I don't tend to read when I'm showing you things. I explain things, you know, the easy way. The print is right there for you to read when you get your books. So I don't need to go over it again because it would just be saying the same thing over that I said yesterday. And it probably won't stick any more than it did yesterday. It's new stuff. And it's, for me, I keep trying to remember, all right, what came first? It's like the chicken or the egg question. You know, well, okay, we have single bivecca, right? Right. Then we have what? We have double bivecca, right? Yeah. Then we have, all right, then we have the other, what is that? The trivecca. Okay. So trying to remember all these steps of what Merkabas do and how they grow, and it can be a little confusing at first, just like the echo maps seem to be at first. But now they're easy, and it'll be easy. Once you read through the diagrams, they're at least coherent enough where you should be able to get it just by looking at the pictures and reading the type. Now, this is just to recap, to remember the spirals, the electrical spiral and the magnetic spiral, how they form on the Cathara grid, and how they come together to form a simple bivecca Merkaba field with the Christos seed atom at the center. This is exciting because the Christos seed atom on this planet hasn't been functioning for a very, very long time. It's been progressively being eroded. The last big jolt was in 25,500 BC, when it literally, 2/3 of it started were what's called metatronic. They were bonded using an artificial light technology, the D13 reverse current from the black hole systems, forced into bonding. The seed atom of the planet and this universal system was forced into bonding with the Metatronic shield, which is a contrived shield template that the black hole system people have structured their universal template on. And they've literally been sucking energy from from this system ever since and progressively trying to take the whole system down into theirs. And right now we have about a third of our natural seed atom left, and it's been shut off. It doesn't spin. We don't have the parameter field happening in our fields right now. It's literally shut off because without the seed atom functioning, you can still spin the horizontal axes that make the vortices, but you can't spin the full vertical axis. So we've been stuck, literally phase locked. Particularly on this planet, there are a few places in this universal system that have had their seed atoms repaired where they can function, but we are not one of those systems. What we're doing now is really exciting, and I'm kind of glad that things got so bad that they got the worst that they can get, that they got better, where Hitharo is going to happen, a full Hitharo, because it's really the path of mercy compared to anything lesser. Either, the bad guys decide they don't want to be bad guys anymore and we don't have to play cops and robbers, which isn't going to happen. We tried for 250 billion years. Or it was going to turn into a situation of probably some degree of, I wouldn't say pole shift necessarily, but cataclysmic earth changes. There was going to be certain types of, let's say, ancient consciousness come back, waking back up on this planet. And I'm talking about consciousness in the form of viruses and bacteria that would be poisonous to large segments of the population. There still may be some of that occurring. Lots of things are waking up. It's not just people waking up to their higher selves, be it somebody from a black hole inside of you or somebody from a Christo society, but the elemental kingdoms are waking up, the plant kingdoms, the animal kingdoms, and whatever's in there and whatever their coding is coming back to life. So there's going to be some interesting things probably in the next, between now and 2012, as far as old friends and not so friends, as far as the bacteria and viruses and this kind of thing. When we work with Merkaba, like we're working now, to restore the seed atom, we progressively build more immunity within our own systems, and it moves through the human and the indigo grids as well, and that steps down into the animal and plant kingdoms. So we could actually, what we're doing now will help those kingdoms evolve, and will help some of those things that really didn't belong here in the first place to, if they have 33% template left, 31 or 33% left, they can begin healing, so they may not become the agents of poison that they would be to us otherwise. But the seed atom is really what all of this is about. Anybody that teaches Merkaba mechanics that doesn't teach you about the seed atom is either not aware of it, which means they're not accessing very high-level Merkaba teachings, or they know about it, and they know that it's not a good thing to teach about it, because then you ask more questions, and the more questions lead to, well, what does that connect to? And even in the fallen angelic side of things, they teach Merkaba mechanics, they teach reversals. They even teach, some of them, about a seed atom, the Metatronic seed atom, but it functions differently. And they don't have the logic structure that shows, well, this fits into this, and this works this way. They have part of that, but there are certain holes in the logic that become very apparent when they start to reveal the whole paradigm that they're working with. So they tend to not reveal the whole thing. They, wow you with details here, wow you there, but they don't connect them together. What we're doing now is connecting all the details, and what these details are about is the fact that our universe and our planet and our bodies are going to go through this phenomenal thing called a Hitharo, and a Hithalan, and a Rushate, and a Ekashai. We were supposed to go through a Duradashai this time instead of an Ekashai. A Duradashai is the restart of a local harmonic universe time cycle. That's what, even as far as 2000, the year 2000, that's what was on the agenda. We weren't intended to go through Hitharo this time, but it was a dormant possibility if things went bad. If it weren't for the Anunnaki races breaking the Sarian-Palladian agreements and joining the War Edict in September of 2000, we would be preparing for Duradashai, which is a much smaller thing to deal with. You don't have to activate your rod and staff. You don't have to activate a Trivaca Merkaba to get through it or any of that. And you also don't get the Ark of the Covenant opening with the Duradashai. We have, it's almost like the greatest show in town just came to Earth, And it's going to be more pleasant in a lot of ways. There's going to be a very strong harmony and healing building within the kingdoms of people and animals and plants and rocks and things that have the ability to hold. If they have more than 31 to 33%, 31 to 33% divine blueprint left in their shields, which is base 12 coding, there will be a rapid healing taking place that wouldn't have happened otherwise. So the news is actually better than it was under level 3 evac. But there may be some issues when we get into wormwood and those kind of things, as far as asteroids and as far as war problems with the Illuminati guys who are hell-bent on having their little final conflict drama between each other. It is nice to know, though, that we don't have to be really a part of that. It's going to be a challenge if we do, because there's people going to be getting drafted and all those kind of things. And one of the easiest things to say is, oh, well, I'm not a part of that. I don't have to be there. It's against my religious beliefs, so I'm not going to go. You can do that. But sometimes, if you think of yourself as an angel, which you are, an angelic human or an angelic indigo, where are angels needed most? So sometimes, if it seems like the universe is forcing you into a situation that you might choose, might not want to be in, it might not just be getting drafted, into an army where somebody's going to be fighting. Sometimes there's a very important reason why you're put in situations that you might not particularly want to be in. It doesn't mean you have to stay in them forever, and it doesn't mean that if you feel like you really don't want to do it, you try everything in your power that's, while still holding integrity to not do it. But if it still comes back that it looks like this is in my face and I've got to do this, I don't have a choice anymore. You always have a choice. Not choosing is also a choice. But if you find those situations coming up, think about what. If we're used to thinking of ourselves as humans, as little people running around on a planet. We're used to thinking about me, I. We're used to thinking about our kids and our wives and our spouses, our husbands, our cats, our dogs, our houses, those kind of things. We don't usually spend a lot of time thinking about, I am an angelic human. What is my mission today? We don't usually think of ourselves in terms of the mission. And we are always on a mission. Being alive in a body anywhere is a mission. It's a mission of joy, of experience. You came here not just to be here, not just to be stuck here, but to interact here, to interact with wherever here is, and to affect it, just like you're affected by the environment and the things around you. Angelic humans and indigos were put here to affect the things around them as well. If you work to hold really high, pure, clear frequency, and you go someplace, you are giving a gift to that space. You are affecting that space, even if you don't say a word. Even if you, let's say, decided, well, I really have to go over, there's a really big black hole opening up over in that hotel over there, and I heard there's a job opening on the cleaning staff, so I'm going to go and I'm going to get a job on the cleaning staff. And what do? You go clean and radiate frequency and do your things in your head. So there's a lot of undercover jobs that go along with being an angelic human. Sometimes it's the people that you work with that you're actually there to help, where you might be in a situation that you really don't like your job, you're not where you want to be, and you don't even particularly sometimes like the people you work with. However, particularly if you don't like the people you work with, usually that has something to do with one of two things. A, karma, which is you've known each other in other lives and you still can't stand each other because of something that went down then. But B, and this is the more likely one, you are holding a certain frequency now, a frequency that is agitating to the fields of people who are not holding it. Now, if that agitation is there, it's showing you there are people around you that need that frequency. You're the wake-up call. It might not mean you're always right if you get into arguments with each other and stuff, but you're there giving a gift to them, and they're there fighting the gift, but they need it anyway. So if we can learn to re-perceive sometimes, look at differently the situations we're in, we can find a peace and an integrity where if you realize, hey, I'm going to work today, and I used to just drag myself around there. I hated it. I wanted to go hide because I can't stand so-and-so and so. They're always bugging me or picking on me or making it hard for me. Pull your shoulders back and take a breath and say, wow, I have a gift to bring today, don't I? And imagine if you're in this situation with the same people, you'll have two choices. One, falling back into the old reaction pattern. They react this way to you, so you react this way to them. Or you can smile. Let's remember what I'm here for. And think in your head while they're doing whatever to you, I'm here to help you. I love you. I'll let that bounce off. I'll be like Teflon. It will slide right off me. I'm going to be pleasant. I'm going to choose to be pleasant. I'm going to choose to be loving here. I'm a Christed being. What would a Christed being do here? If we can stop ourselves long enough in action, not later. It's easy to think about it when you're sitting at home with your feet up saying, well, yeah, I should do that. Next time I'll do that. It's when you're in the line of fire and you're in a very tense environment and something is right there in your face, that's when you need to train yourself to make the choice. Are you going to be a mutated human, or are you going to be an angelic human? Are you going to run on autopilot with a programmed CD that somebody else is running through your emotional body on a subconscious level? Or are you going to say, hold on, put the pause button, I'm going to pause for a minute, and I'm going to choose how I'm going to act? It's going to be progressively more important as we move through Hitharo to do this, because Hitharo is going to do what it does, which is restore divine blueprint and separate the shields. The universal shields are going to separate into two separate shields. One that will have an anti-Christos seed atom that spins in reverse and is on an imploding path. The other will be the renewed Christos seed atom that is going on the ascension path. What you're going to have from now until 2012 are a bunch of people living on a planet, some going one way, some going the other. There's bound to be tension. There is bound to be all sorts of things that you can really waste your energy in and get caught up in dramas you don't want to be caught up in. So I was just inspired to mention that when we're talking about seed atoms, because we're going through a split of the seed atom, as we'll see when we get talking about the Hitharo diagrams. There's literally, the seed atom is literally going to split what's left of the one that's in this universe, in this planet. And see, seed atoms are funny. The universal Merkabas have one primary seed atom, and then there's lots of little seed atoms that come out of that. Every time you see a Kathara grid, whatever it's in, be it in a bug or be it in a universe, at the center of that, between 6 and 7, between Kathara center 6 and 7, or what would be Stargate 6 and 7, in the bodies, it's in the base of the thymus gland. That is where your seed atom lives, and it will always be there. We're literally going to go through a split of the seed atom. It's going to disappear momentarily. It's going to split and fragment into energy. And there is going to be the new one, the Christos one, reset. Again, that's the process of Hitharo. Hitharo is the natural process that if we didn't have any shield problems and everything was going right and our Merkabas were spinning right and we were all Christ-conscious beings, we'd just have a big party and we'd kind of like hang out and like really enjoy the energy and feel so close to God's source, because it's like God comes down and hangs out with you, you know, the frequencies. And when you're a Christos being, you're very, very sensitive to those frequencies. So you really feel the love as it, you know, moves through you and embraces you. Many of us can still experience Hitharo in this way. And that's what we're going to do our best to teach you how to do and to learn how to do ourselves as well. There will be others that experience Hitharo in a different way. And again, it's a choice. Now, we're going through Hitharo not because it was time for us. See, Hitharo works in a way that the point where we entered this universe, entered manifestation, leaves a certain vibration that's always there. And from that point, we spiral outward. There's actually 6 main large cycles of expansion that the energy that came in as the universal template and the manifestations within it goes through the 6 cycles, and it progressively builds up its vibration, because what it does is come in, it downsteps its vibration into the dimensional structure, and then slowly picks up its frequencies again, rolls itself back out until it hits the original vibration it came in with. And at that point, natural Hitharo would take place, where the renewed frequencies would come in. We're not doing it now because we hit that point in our universe. It isn't the point in time where we finished all of our expansion cycles. There's an override system in the Cosmic Templar that if a system is going to fall, an Eka. Now, Vekas can fall, but if the Eka core falls, which jeopardizes the Akasha, which jeopardizes the one above that, then the Templar system itself, the Cosmic Templar, is designed to override and clear it and rebalance itself, so it can retain its perpetual motion, eternal life structure that it was created on. We're going through Hitharo because we hit that original point of vibration because of a frequency influx that occurs if a system goes into a certain level of critical mass template distortion. There's certain frequencies that collect at the core of a planet or of a person. This time it was at the core of the universe, which happens to be located in a sun that's out there someplace, not our sun. But it's something that communicates to all of the other planetary bodies. The large Christos seed atoms in the universe communicate back to all the smaller ones all the way down through. There were frequencies released in this universe because of the beast activation, which is the blank slate technology, beast machine, the crystalline technology, perversion of Templar mechanics that the Anti-Christos races have been using. And because that frequency was put in here where it didn't belong, we reached a point of vibration that equaled the original creation point, and it triggered the thing early. Now, it wasn't a natural return to our creation point. It was getting influx of frequency that didn't belong here that pushed the frequency up in the core so high, and particularly in a disharmonic way, that it triggered the override system. So we are literally, I didn't even ask yet, because this is all new material. It's like, let me get this down, then I'll ask questions about it. Yeah, that'll be next workshop. I'm not sure when our cosmic cycle was supposed to end in this universe, but it had a lot longer to go. It wasn't, 2012 was not the end of the cosmic cycle here. That was supposed to be the end of the Dorayashai, the end of the harmonic cycle down here in this universe. Then we had the Terran one for Terra and the Gaian one and density 3 for Gaia. So this is like a huge leap in time. We can celebrate this, and we can do it the way the Iani do under a normal situation. We can look at it as, well, this is terrible that we had to go through Hitharo now. Or we can look at it as, cool, we get to go to Hitharo now. It's a good thing. And Hitharo is a fascinating process. So they were giving me the mechanics of it, and these diagrams, I felt like my brain was twisted in pretzels for about 3 days while it was coming through. But then once it was through in sequence, because I was getting like part of diagram 4, and then part of diagram 1, and part of diagram 5, and it's like a sequence of things that happen. What goes first? We finally got them down. It has to do with the seed atom, and I just wanted to touch base with those things again. And if we remember, I'm going to put this one up. If we just remember this really quick, too, of how the Cathara grids connect together, how these guys over here, the Particum and Particay universe Vecca Cathara grids, right, connect to form the gate interface system. And from that, the Merkaba fields build. Let me see. Okay. Now, this diagram has a lot to do with Hitharo, because this is a consolidated version of what we go through in Hitharo. Remember, this is what the Merkaba structure that's formed when you take the Cathara grid and Merkaba from the Particum universe and the Cathara grid and Merkaba from the Particay universe, and you put them together. You get a double Viveka Merkaba. And the double Viveka Merkaba is part of what's going to be the Hitharo process. In 2 different stages, 2 of these are going to form. One from the primal light fields coming together, and another from the density fields coming together. And these things together are what open up the Triveka Merkaba, or activate the Triveka Merkaba. These structures always exist. The Merkabas exist. But the difference between a dormant and active one is the dormant ones, they pulse. It's almost as if they're a shape that pulses in the template, but it didn't pick itself up and start to move. They're not actually animated. They animate in sequence, and then they stop. There's a start and stop. It's kind of like a breathing rhythm, where the top breathes out and then pause. And while the top breathes out, the other ones inhale, and then there's a whole breathing circulation thing, which means Merkabas stop and start at different set intervals that allows them to pass energy from one to the other, from the Akasha Ea levels all the way down. So when we activate a Merkaba, the universal Merkaba, it means it's coming into a breathing cycle where it's not on its pause cycle anymore. It's going to transmit frequency, and when we do Hithalan, it's going to draw frequency up from here. If we remember this diagram too, this is the 15-cell Christos or Akasha seed atom. This is the God seed atom, and it's very different from the 7 circles that are used to depict the Metatronic seed atom, which is a compacted seed atom. They start out similar, but their angles change. And as we go through the steps in Hitharo, I will also explain a bit about what happens with the other, what the other side, when they're working on reverse Merkaba, what's going on. There's also a whole series of diagrams that I don't know if we'll have them for this workshop, because this workshop wasn't about proving the other guys wrong. It was about showing what's happening. But we can take these diagrams now that we have them and plug into them the images of all right, this is what we're doing. What is their Merkaba doing in relation to this, right? So there's a whole series of diagrams that would show those things too. I don't have those now, but I will try to, as we go along, talk about some of the things that the people on the reversed Merkaba would be experiencing during Hitharo period. So, and again, this is the Triveka Merkaba with its 2 double Viveka Merkabas. with the seed atom activating. And this is what a certain stage of Hitharo is going to look like, but it's not the first stage. Now I think we'll start Hitharo. Please, please. Oh, this is the one I have to read. Okay. See that? I'll do the top one first. We'll start at the top. Look at that. It's just a little twisted. It's funny, it's straight on the thing, but it's twisted up there. I have to leave it that way. I'm going to read this from the paper because I can't see that far with little print. Now, this is the Hitharo cycle. This is how it initiates, how it begins. There's a difference between the Hitharo cycle and the Hitharo peak. The Hitharo peak would be the peak of the cycle, where all the action finally happens. The cycle is what builds up to the action, what happens to start it, and what happens to get it to the point where it hits a peak. And I'll read this to you, and then we'll talk about it, and I'll show you the diagrams. Actually, I can use 3 hands here. Anyway, number 1 says, Hitharo cycle begins. The PCM particum, I have that, there's a few typos in these, by the way. You'll see them. That should be PCM particum. Particum, Particae, and Eka universe electrical Merkaba spirals both complete final 6th expansion cycle. All right, what that means is this is the, if you look at, imagine that the Merkaba is sticking out this way. Okay, one here and one goes out the other way. If you opened up Merkaba and looked down in it, you would get this particular illustration. All right, and it's actually 3-dimensional, but that's the best way to look at it. If you have 2 cone-shaped cups put together with their, with the wide end together, and you had a disc in between, that gives you the idea of where this diagram is taking you. All right, this is what's created by the spin in the Merkaba and the electrical one. We're only dealing with the electrical one right now. The 6 expansion cycles would be, now up here you have what's called dimensional lock 11. On a Cathara grid, it's right between the 11th Cathara center, which would be up here, and the 12th, which would be here. There's a little lock in there, one of those things that we use Vecca codes to open. It's only a dimensional lock. It's not a density lock, but it's an important one. Because it's through lock 11 that frequency comes in to the Merkaba. It comes in from 14, spirals down through 13 and 12, then comes in lock 11 as the first point, as the creation point, into density manifestation. So this actually represents the first point of density manifestation. Frequency comes in there and it enters into the seed atom, and from the seed atom it spirals out its 6 expansion cycles until it gets back to the point where its frequency is the same as it was when it was here. All right? Now, that's what we mean by the end of the 6th cycle, when it finally expands out to the end of the 6th cycle and accreting. The accretion is the process by which all of this takes place. When the frequency comes in through the Merkaba, it comes in through lock 11 and spirals into dimensionalization through the Cathara grid that would be in there. All right? Spirals through the Cathara grid, breaking itself down into smaller aspects. Now, as the seed atom starts to spin, once the frequency comes in here and the main vertical current comes in the center, this starts to spin and expand, and what it does is accrete or pull into itself the smaller currents that it broke down into the Cathara. You reassemble yourself. It's like when you come into manifestation, you break yourself into lots of pieces, and then as you ascend and go back up, you integrate yourself in its frequency. You're integrating the frequencies of yourself again. So by the time the universal Merkaba gets to its 6th cycle, in a natural sense, when it reaches that, it will reach the same vibration. Everything it brought in for manifestation, it has reaccreted and brought back into itself. So it reaches the same vibration it was at when it came in. Now, that point is what starts a natural Hitharo cycle. That would be a point when the things you're going to see would happen naturally. They would all happen to refuel the seed atom and recreate the creation. The first creation is a perpetual creation. It creates itself over and over and over again. That's why it's eternal life. That's why it's continual. That's why there really is no beginning and no end. Now, this over here is the Particae universe. What we're seeing here is the trion field, by the way. You know how we have our radial body, and we talk about the meage field, the pre-sound field, and then outside of that the trion field, and outside of that the rayon field? This expansion is taking place with the Manet frequencies, which are the transmitting outward frequencies. All right, they're pKa positive, whichever universe they're in, they're still pKa positive antiparticle frequencies. They're the expansion currents, and they're expanding out. This is the formation of the radial body. That's how the radial body is formed. And the Miage field, this isn't on this diagram, but the Miage field forms from the counter rotation. It's a smaller field that forms inside of that from the counter rotation of the bottom Merkaba spiral, or the magnetic Merkaba spiral. But these trion fields, they start out small and dimensionalized, and they accrete, pick up their frequency, and it expands out like a big bubble expanding out. And finally it hits as big as it was when it first came in, before it broke itself down. And that's when Hitharo would normally happen. Right now, there's been so much frequency infusion into the core template in this universe because of the Metatronic seed atom activating. Because of the beast activating, it activates the Metatronic part of the seed atom, that 2/3 part of our seed atom that was twisted. And it has accreted a huge amount of frequency. Our bodies are doing a bit of that too. Boy, do I know it. I went from like a size 8 to a size 14. Yeah. There's an accretion process happening, an overly developed accretion process that's we're literally pulling in too much frequency for like in a moment in time. Let's say we should have X amount of frequency. We're getting X, Y, and Z amount of frequency. So we've literally reached the frequency point of expansion, but 2/3 of it are running reverse, which means 2/3 of this is actually going backward in time, and 1/3 is going forward, which makes it really confusing. Now, we don't need to understand too much of the backward and forward of time right now. What we do need to understand Hitharo is that it starts because of reaching that original creation point, the first creation point, the vibration that was when a thing came into manifestation and broke itself down, when it spirals itself back up to get its frequency back up to its original creation point, the vibration it had then. That's what triggers Hitharo. It's happening simultaneously and in synchronization between our Particum universe and its parallel, the Partic universe. It also is happening, there's a sequence of these happening within the primal light fields, light and sound fields. So every Cathara grid would have one of those, and if you look at the Vecca, the universal Vecca map that has the 4 Cathara grids together, you would see 4 of these in synchronized spiraling rotations. They're all coming to the end of that 6th cycle at the same time. Now, we're coming to it because of the beast. This says, let's see. So we return to they call it returning to a co-resonant vibration, all right, with dimensional lock 11. So literally, to come in dimensional lock 11, you took on the pattern of dimensional lock 11. And to get back out, you have to become dimensional lock 11 again. We literally take on the pattern of the gates we come through when we come into dimensionalization. That's why we all have a Cathara grid inside of us. Our consciousness has to take on that core template in order to get into manifestation. So when we reach the same vibration as universal gate 11, when our universe reaches its vibration, I'm going to try that again. When the universe breaks itself down and comes back and reaches the same vibrational point as its original self as the gate 11 imprint is when Hitharo happens. In our bodies, it would be when we come to the point, this gets into fetal integration as well. There's a small version of this that happens when you come into a fetus, where if your consciousness is going to get into that fetal body, first the parents come together and they create a form, right? Then that form has to be made alive because it doesn't have its own soul. It has an energy field that has portions of the energy field of the 2 parents. But until you come into it, until somebody else comes in to live in there, it's simply a product of the energy fields of the 2 parents and does not have an independent soul, and it doesn't have any interest or direction or purpose for itself. When you come into fetal integration, you go through a process like this, and you do enter in through the Cathara grid, and you come in and begin the density downstepping through the 11th Cathara center, and you go through 12, but then you come in and the density starts to happen when you go into the 11th Cathara center. And then you begin to spiral your consciousness outward into the body. So the Hitharo is very personal. There's many Hitharos that take place all the time, just in the regeneration of even cells. They say, I think it's every 7 years you have a completely new set of cells. Like your body actually went away and something new came back, right? But it happened so slow and in increments that you didn't notice it. That is taking place because of many Hitharos. They call them antharos. But instead of the HEs in front of them, they have ands. ANs. There's antharo and anthalon and those kind of things, and they're the natural smaller processes of regeneration that that beings in smaller Merkaba fields and planets and stars go through, while the universal seed atom is still at its original set, where it's the universal seed atom only goes once in a great while does it have to recharge or be reset. And all of us get reset all the time when things are working the right way. So we have antharos and we have heath-arrows. The heath-arrows are the big ones. That's where literally the Eka, not just the Veka system, but the Eka system is going through this too. So the Akasha level and the Eka level are literally anchoring from the higher levels up the whole divine blueprint pattern again. So this is a big one. Now, after the point where we hit that co-resonant vibration, or our universal Merkaba hits that co-resonant vibration with gate 11, or lock 11, we go to the next phase. And this is all the stuff that happens before Heath-arrow. This initiates the Heath-arrow cycle. Okay? The activation, oh, by the way, between March 23rd and July 24th of 2002 is when that point came to be, because of the beast activation. All right. Now, the second thing that happens is activation of the universal Veka Christos seed atom. Okay. This is the big seed atom that goes with the universal grid. It's two of them that are in the primal light fields. One for the Particum primal light fields and one for the Partic primal light fields. Right. What happens is Manet current, which is the Manet force current, Trion field current, the base electrical current, from the PCM, PKA, and Eka universe electrical Merkaba spirals, passes back out of the density via lock 11 through Signet, and I'm calling when Signet means Stargate, it also means Cathara Center. So I'd like us to get used to using the word Signet, because it's like, Stargate, Cathara Center, it's like they're signets, So I will try to use that word more often and get us used to that, referring to these little circles that are on the Tree of Life Cathara grid, right? Right. So Manet current from the particle, antiparticle, and Eka universes from their electrical Merkaba spirals passes back out of density. So it spirals out, and it passes back out of density. All right, here's that spiral. Gets up to here. It passes back out of density via lock 11, which is here. It opens the lock again. Okay, via lock 11. Through Signet 12, which would be here. Okay, the little one inside. Because 12 and 13 are in the same place. If you look at a Veka map, you have that 12-13 unification point right in the center of the Eka, where all of the 12s meet. Okay? All right, so it goes through here, comes through the lock, goes through 12 and 13, then it goes up, keeps going vertically up into density, the primal field, density lock 1. So we're going up into the light field here, but it's actually the parallel light field. All right, it's going vertically. So if you look at the Eka maps again, the Veka maps, if you recall those in your mind, they're shaped like the cross. You have the Particum universe down here and the parallel over here. You have the parallel light field running vertically on top of the Particum universe. And over here you have our light field, which would be running at a 90 degree. Okay? So with this, it's actually the Particum universe is having this interaction with the parallel light field, and the Partic universe is having this interaction with our Particum light field. Not that that's particularly important. It's just a detail that's, it's there. So just to be accurate. So the frequencies spiral out, hit that point of same vibration, pop the lock seal, like the codes on the lock, open, and the frequency that was spiraling around in here now goes up here. And it goes vertically up into density lock 1 in the parallel primal field. From there, and in that lock, it splits into two currents. And in the two currents, at the same time, do this, they keep going vertical. They go through what's called PP1 and PT3, which are, when you get these, I don't know if you remember, because it was a while back when we talked about the names for the triadic, polaric, and acadic levels of the primal sound fields. So here you have parallel, polaric, 1, and parallel, triadic, 3. Okay, that's what those funny little numbers are that are on there. So you have this current coming up, spiraled around, came up, hit its creation point, came out lock 11, went through 12 and 13, went up through into density lock 1 in the primal field. Splits. One goes the way of parallel triadic 1. One goes the way of parallel D15. and spiral up. They come back through parallel polaric 1 and parallel triadic 3, which are now into sound fields. These are the light fields, the dimensions 13, 14, and 15. But now these, you're into the sound fields. They meet again. This frequency meets again here at the seed atom. This is the Christos seed atom at the Azure point. If you looked at the Cathara grid, I have them chopped in half here so I could fit all of this on. But this would be gate 6, and this would be gate 7, or signet 6 and signet 7, right? 6 and 7 would be here. I don't know if you guys can see me right there. This would be 6, this would be 7, this would be 3, this would be 4. You know how a regular Cathara grid is structured? But you're going up in the light fields now, so they have different names, but they're basically the same position. So between PP1 and PT3 is where your Azure point is in the primal fields. So the frequency splits, goes back up into there and meets in the Azure. Now, let's say the Manet current splits into two currents. Yeah, one current passes into there, one into there, which I just described. Okay, and then they intersect at the universal Eka and Veka primal Christos. Now, we talked about the gold wave infusion in the France trip, and since that point, because, surprise to us, we were in France helping to anchor the gold wave infusion, which wasn't exactly on the itinerary. That was a surprise that kind of popped up. Oh, okay. I knew something was happening with that, but it was one of those where you don't really know what you're doing in the grids yet until they let you know, oh, by the way, this is what this is about. If you want to participate, here's what it's about. Well, we had the gold wave infusion in November. So this whole process here, the activation of the universal Veka Christos seed atom, once the co-resonant vibration with Lock 11 was triggered between March and July, in July, we went into this process of this climbing up into the frequency and splitting and going back up in here and coming in here. Then in November is when we finally hit the end of this, which is sparking the release of the Eka polaric gold wave infusion, because in November we got the gold wave infusion, and that's when it was anchoring. And I'll show you what that is next. And this is all the stuff that starts Hitharo. All right, all this has to happen before the Hitharo peak can come. Now, the next thing that happens over here, the gold wave infusion. Let me get over on this side to explain this. Okay. All right, I'll read it first, and then I'll go back and reiterate it with the pictures, because it's too hard to keep going back and forth. Okay, the Eka and the parallel polaric gold wave infusions. Oh, let me say one thing too. Polaric. It's because right here the seed atom connects into. There's a lock between the seed atoms and the things that are next to it, the signets that are next to it. Right here would be the equivalent of our gate 8 if this were the regular gate numbers going up. And it's the polaric number 2, I believe. So it's a polaric field 2. Polaric is the gold, the pale yellow light spectrum. So this is where you get the polaric infusion. It's called a monadic infusion, actually, because it's coming from the monad or the seed atom. But this is where the gold wave infusion comes from. It's bringing in the frequencies from the polaric level of the primal sound fields, which when they become primal light fields, once they downstep into light, they become the pale yellow of D14. All right, so they step down. But I just wanted to know where the word polaric fits in there and why it's gold. Right, and it gets golder as it goes, because it goes down when it gets into the lower systems. It goes through our gate 8, which is gold frequency. Okay. So anyway, the Eka and the parallel polaric gold wave infusions run vertically down through the primal field density lock 1 and into signet 14, releasing signet 14 universal electrical Merkabah seals. In signet 14, which would be Stargate 14. Right, which would be Cathara Center 14, the one that's connected to your primal light grid. That has inside of it the Merkabah seals. This is actually where, in the other diagrams, we saw that the Merkabah comes from the 14s, all right, not just from the 12s. Your Merkabah doesn't start at 12. It starts at 14, and it feeds from the primal D14, which is the Manet current, primal light fields current. All right, so I just wanted to notice 14, and we'll go back. And I'll explain more of this in a little bit. But there is a Merkabah seal, which is the thing that holds. It's like the little, if you know how Merkabah fields are like bow ties, and there's that little knot in the middle? Or if you looked at it as an upside-down cone with a cherry on top, the cherry is the seal that's holding that spiral together. Okay? It literally holds the spiral. You're going to find that when seals open and things like the 14th seal releases, the Merkabah doesn't hold its spiral shape anymore. It does something else. And that's part of what's going to happen in Hitharo. But for now, just know that there's, in this signet, there is the electrical seal that holds the tip of the electrical Merkaba spiral, that holds it constant and holds its axis steady. All right, so it releases the polaric gold wave infusion, comes down. It releases the Merkabic electrical Merkabic seal in 14, and it opens the 0-point density locks between signets 13 and 14. That'd be down here. The 0-point density locks, little black dots are locks. Okay. The gold wave infusion continues running. It runs down, releasing dimensional lock 12 between signets 13 and 12. This one down here. Okay. And this opens the Eka as array for later release of the MRA flame. So this is happening in the Eka level and in our Veka level at the same time. And what it does first is open all of these seals here, those center seals, that will allow, during the Hitharo, the center pillar of the Amaraya flame from the Eka to run down into the Veka. So first, it's the gold wave infusion that actually opens these things up. Now, the gold wave infusion continues down, once it opened all these locks up, continues down into the density Cathara grid, which is the one that's numbered 1 through 12, right? But it's entering. It went through 12 and 13 and 12, went 14, 13, 12. Now, and it goes right into the Christos seed atom, and it does that by going through 11, and that's where it enters the density level. Goes through lock 11, which would be here, then through gate 11. Then there's a lock in here, a density lock, and there behind this big arrow, that's the arrow that goes with this, there would be another signet, which would be signet 8, which is considered the monadic core of a Cathara grid because it's connected directly to the seed atom. There's a conduit where the frequency passes from here directly into the seed atom, and that's precisely what it does. So the gold wave infusion fires over there from the end cycle, what we went through, comes back down from the Azure. It's coming down from this Azure point, opens all of those locks and seals, and goes into the density level Christos seed atom. Now, there's another stage before we get to the big stages. It's really funny. The big stages all happen like on one day, May 27th. No. Okay, now I only have one of these shown here because there wasn't room to show them both. When we get down here, I don't know if you guys in the back can see that. I'm trying to lift it up a little. That's not helping. Oh, that didn't help either. Let's try that. That's better. Okay. Now, the fourth thing that initiates the cycle that leads up to the Hitharo is the Azaryan, Ashayon, and Ayanyane activation. As the gold wave infusion reaches critical mass in the Christos seed atom. So when it reaches critical mass, when all that current coming down builds up enough that it reaches critical mass here, it sparks activation of first the Azaryan stands. Now it's a stands again. A stands is like a flow pattern, but it's not energy flowing in. It's energy flashing in. Okay? All right. So it activates the Azaryan, the electrical template. That's for the electrical, it goes with the electrical Merkaba. It activates the electrical template of the Azaryan, and these are called arc regenesis flow patterns. All right? They go with the Ark of the Covenant, and they are regenesis flow patterns. Before the Ark of the Covenant was put in, whatever the natural configuration was here, it would have been a bit different. But the Ark system was used to allow for the extra override in this system because there had been so much damage to this universal Veka. So it's a very specific coding. You can't have, the Ark actually modulates Hitharo. It allows it to happen without shattering everything to pieces because they can't hold the frequency. So they're considered the arc regenesis flow patterns. So whenever regenesis is coming in through Hitharo, these patterns activate in the shields, in the universal shields. Okay? Okay. When the Azaryan fulfills, now first they activate in the Eka, and then the Azaryan fulfills in the Eka, and the next would be the magnetic Ashayon fulfills in the Eka, and then the Ayanyane, which is the double one, fulfills in the Eka. Once they fulfill in the Eka, that's when they start activating in the Vecca shields, and that's what we're approaching now. They began activating in the Eka in December of 2000, and indigos, this is where I learned, the indigos' bodies are keyed to the Eka grids even more than they're keyed to the Earth grids. It's almost like we're time travelers that are actually from a different space-time, and we birthed in here, but our templates are calibrated to the future, not to what would be considered this time frame. Because in frequency terms, if we go forward in the future, the vibration that we would call the inner ecosystems would be future to us. It's also past, but but anyway, I'm not going there right now. Let's go back to this. All right, so you have the set of them, the three parts of the stands, so the stand sequence. You have the Azaryan, the Azarayun, Ashayun, and the Ayanyane. Now it's later that the last one activates. The Yanesa, that one activates later in the Hitharo, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Okay, so they activate in the Eka grid, then they activate in the Vecca grids, which means they activate in the universal Vecca grid, and then in all of the little solar, the solar templates, and in the planetary templates, all through the whole galaxy. This all happens at once through the whole galactic system. So it's like every time frame is getting hit by this, because you know how time is strange. Like you can go, I forget if it's you go back to the future or something by going straight out into space because of the speed of light and all that weird stuff. Like even science plays with that. But this is all happening across all of the time continua in the universal Vecca, all at the same time. So there's nothing that isn't affected by it, which is kind of fascinating. This means that because we reach this point here, we affect ourselves that are in the other time frames. Your past selves are now going to go through Hitharo in certain points in their times that connect to this time. So there is a point in vibration. We'll experience it here. Those frequencies will run from us back through to all of our other probable selves that are running around, all of our other incarnate selves of our 1,728 plus some that are, other incarnate selves at the same time. So it's a trans-time thing that's happening. The Hitharo activation is a trans-time activation. Okay, let's see. Now, this is where understanding that where these fit, why these activate, what they do. Once these activate in the Eka and the Vecca grids, these progressively accelerate the spin of the Eka and Vecca electrical Merkaba spirals until they reach critical mass spin speed. And that's what initiates the rest of the Hitharo peak. Because the Hitharo peak, the peak refers to, it's at its peak or highest spin speed. And the Hitharo is the electrical peak, meaning the electrical Merkaba is at its highest spin speed. And the Hithalan is the magnetic peak, which means the bottom spiral or the magnetic spiral is the one that's at its highest spin peak. All right. So this is what these do. This is the sequence that brings us, and this is just showing you when you have the full Ayanyane activated here in the Particum universe. It's also happening in the parallel universe, and that's what that one would look like, running their north is here and their south is here, and our north is here and that's there. And again, these would be together, right, because we're actually in the same place. But this is showing you what initiates the cycle that leads to the Hitharo peak. I forgot to put the date on this one, but these began in December in the Eka, and we are now in February going into the activation of first the Yan, and then I call them Yan and the Yun, the Yan and the Yun, and then in between March and April, I believe, is when the Ashayun, no, not Ashayun, Ayanyune, names drive me crazy, but that's when that activates between March and April. And then finally, when we get to May, is when the fourth one fully activates. Now, we can use these before this fact, especially indigos, because they're already running in the Eka grids. We can use them, and even if they're not running in the grids here yet, and let's say you're not an indigo and you use the activation, it's like starting your car up and letting it sit out idling out in front of your house waiting for you to get in to drive it. You warm up the car. It will do that. It'll buzz in the shields. It won't fully activate the frequencies until they activate in the Earth's grids. But with the indigos, when most people that come to these workshops are indigos, especially at this point, because the frequency of the stuff we put out usually loses people that aren't indigos. It's just overwhelming, some of the detail and all of that stuff. So you could probably rest assured that you're an indigo, and that means that these things, they're already going through part of their Hitharo, all right? So they're ahead of us in time, and we can open ourselves to the frequencies of their Hitharo. So we can have a Hitharo in our bodies before the planet does, which will help the planet once it's time. This is what the host matrix was about, the indigo host matrix, the golden fleece host matrix. Because we're keyed to the Eka grids, we can, before the planet can activate these frequencies, we can activate them in our body without harming the planet, which means we can help the planet to hold those frequencies. We can set the frequency ground, and it also assists the other people and life forms on this planet to begin getting these frequencies as soon as possible, because the Hitharo, once the peak hits, goes very, very quickly, and the outcome of the Hitharo is very intense. It literally determines whether your seed atom is going to hold the new Christos imprint again, or whether it's going to reverse completely. It will do one or the other. Now, because this is full Hitharo, we have the benefit of the Ark of the Covenant opening, which gives us something called the Golden Fleece frequency field that we'll talk about in a little while, that extends the time a little bit before that full reversal happens for people who don't or aren't able to anchor the frequencies that are coming in from the Hitharo. We get until August now instead of it being over in May, because in level 3, when we were on level 3 evac, we were told that, May is it. That's when the seed atoms split. And one goes one way. One goes into the anti-Christos spin, and the other, goes into the Christos spin. And that's when people literally they're going to start dividing. The ones who are falling that's when that decision is made. That is Judgment Day. Judgment Day now got extended from May to August, right? Which is a good thing. That gives more people more time to get their frequencies up, and it gives the indigos more time to get enough frequency built for the host matrix, which means more frequency is available to buffer the people who can't have it. What if you have like 32% divine blueprint left in your template, and you have the negative side throwing their nasty frequencies over? They can trip you right over into not having enough to anchor the the Christos seed atom, where the indigo buffer field is meant to help protect against that. Where if you have divine blueprint left, if we can build this frequency field strong enough, quickly enough, lots of people that would have gone under reversal under a level 3 evac will now have the ability to anchor it through that host matrix. So that's one of the things we're working on. There's a lot more to that I'll explain as we go through some of the other graphs. But this is the process that leads up to it. I like to show the pictures and recap real fast. Just so, what did we just see? We just saw the spiraling currents of the 6 expansion cycles of the radial bodies hitting the end of their 6th cycle, the parallel one, and ours in the particum. From there, oops, I lost my tip. My tip just went flying off this. That was weird. There we go. Actually, I don't think that needs to be on there anyway. Where'd that come from? I don't know. It screws on. Okay. All right. Oops, we're crooked again. Nope, that's not working either. I need help. I'm fighting with this. I'm trying to show the diagrams, but it won't hold it. No, I'm over this way, please. I know. That's why I stuck it up there. Yeah. There we go. There we go. All right, so it went from the 6th cycle end, which is here, into this configuration, which is simply showing you that the current goes up and splits, and it triggers the activation of the primal field Christos seed atom, and that sets in motion the gold wave infusion, where the frequencies come down into the density level seed atom. That builds up in the seed atom. The gold wave infusion builds up in the seed atom, triggers activation of the Azuryan, the Ashayun, and the Ayan Yone. It's easy to read them. And that, in parallel and in our universe, creates the activation of the template that makes the electrical Merkaba progressively spin faster until the point in time where it reaches its highest potential spin peak, and that is the Hitharo peak. And something fascinating starts to happen then. And this is what we get to see in, or I don't know if we see it, but we get to be with it in Paxos in May, because we're going to be, I think there's like 250 people going. Yeah, we were amazed. But we're going to be sitting on an island that has no lights, no anything, just the ruins of an old castle that's it's like off the coast of the island that we're going to. We're going to be sitting there from like probably dusk till dawn through this whole process that you're now going to see illustrated. So it may be very interesting, you know, very dark. Hopefully it won't rain. Where did that go? Because this is doing something funny. It's shrinking or something. Thank you. Oh, that must be too. Thank you. Uh-oh. Is it? Oh, okay. That's not part of it. So, next. Yeah. No. No, is there a soda there? I'm going to take a drink before I launch into this one. Yeah. Boom. This is going to be a journey. I'm going to see if I can actually explain this. You know, these are the graphs that were some of the hardest to understand the processes. They were not the hardest to draw, but they were the hardest to understand because there were so many different things happening at so many different times. Oh, the books are here. Do we get one too in a binder? Make sure that they save us one so we have one. You know, I could really use your help with this. If you could read what's on the bottom, I can point to stuff as it's being read. And I don't know if I have those in paper copy. They're the ones that I couldn't find. That one's there. See, that's the next one. Well, see, these I have the masters that they don't have the words on them. The words are like on the thing right here. You can't really read them there. I'll just read it, I guess. I'll try this. I'll try what I was doing because I know you're trying to get that symbol done. Let me see if I can do this. Okay. This is what we call Hitharo Peak, the Christ Spark and Seed Atom Split, stage A. We go into stage D. All right? This is stage A. Now, if you remember, that diagram comes from, the core diagram there, comes from the interwoven Particum universe and Particum universe Cathara grids, right? Now, I'm going to read the bottom and then go back over it and point with arrows coming in. It says, all right, the emerald Christ spark. Now, we talk about the emerald Christ spark. This is something that's coming down, not just from the Eka. It's coming all the way down from the Akasha Aya level. In a Hitharo, in a full Hitharo, the Templar, or the Azure points of the Templar, all the way up to the Akasha Aya core God world level, open up. And a pure, what's called Christos spark, or Christ spark, is sent down. That's the Christ spelled with a K. All right, that's the original from the first level of creation. There is a spark of what is called the Amorea flame frequency sent down from literally the first level of creation. And it comes all the way down from the Akasha Aya to the Akasha A, to the Akasha, to the Eka, and then down into the Veka. Now, well, this picks up when it enters the Veka. All right? So all this other stuff, all this Hitharo stuff is happening up above us as well. It's kind of like as above, so below. Yeah. Well, they go through it a little bit ahead of time compared to us, like the higher God worlds do. And by now it's finally getting down to us. The dates that we give you are when it's affecting the Veka system. All right. Now, what happens here is the emerald, they call it the emerald Christ spark, because again, we call it the emerald Amorea flame, because it combines the colors of the Manu, the Mane in the Ire, which gives you the primary emerald blue-green color. And that's why it's called the emerald flame. And then it has the silver flame inside of it, the silver sanctum. All right. So the emerald Christ spark descends from the cosmic Eucatharista, the Eucatharista cosmic body, right, through the God worlds, the Eka Azare, and into the Particum and parallel Particae Veka universe stargates 13 and 12. Okay? 13 and 12 is that point up here, the top of the Cathara grid that links in the Veka systems. That's where it links into the Eka. It's the center point of the cross of the 4 Cathara grids linked. Okay? So it comes in 13, 12, 13. Okay, in Stargate 1213, the Christ spark splits into sets of 3 Trinity flame antimatter beams. So it comes in here, gates 13 and 12, and then it splits. It does a 3-way split. They're called antimatter beams, and they call them Trinity flame because they carry huge frequency. These are carrying literally the primal frequencies of the Mano, and Ire from all the way up at the God world, the core God world level. Comes in and they split, and then this wild set of frequency things starts to happen. I'll read it first, and then I'll explain it the way I think. I'll probably word it a little differently than the words are down here, but it'll mean the same thing. So, come in, 3 split. Now, ignore these for a bit, and let's see if you can just imagine we're just working with the vertical Cathara grid with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? The regular Cathara grid, the Particum Universe Cathara grid. So we'll just follow those flow lines for a little bit. Now, it splits into sets of 3 Trinity flame antimatter beams, which is the primal light field beams, okay, antimatter. Okay, one is blue, one is gold, and one is violet, as they are called, but they are really, the blue is the pale turquoise, D13, the gold is the pale yellow, D14, and the violet is the pale pink, magenta, D15. All right, mixed with Amareya, emerald flame. That ought to be an interesting color. I have to play with that color for a while. What do you get when you put pink and green together? Ooh, I don't know. I have a feeling they flicker through each other, though. It's almost like, those hologram papers that they do, where different ways light hits them. I'm seeing it that way, as opposed to the muddy brown mess you'd probably get if you mixed those colors in a paint box, right? Okay. The Trinity beams arc through the Particum and Particae stargates simultaneously, converging in the shared Christos seed atom center point at the Azure. Now, when this is coming down here, the Christos spark comes in here, right? D13 and the gate 13 and gate 12, but it's also happening over here, all right? But it's not entering through 12 and 13. Over here, this is where the electrical Merkaba would run, right? Because the bottom of the Particae universe is the electrical spiral. Theirs is on the bottom. If you look at their grid running here, they're getting this activation from Stargate 13 into Stargate 1. I should say 1 there, I think. Yeah, that should say 1. They're getting it into 1, where we're getting it into 12, but it starts with 13, okay? Now, theirs is running this way. Their Trinity beams split from Stargate 1 to here, here, and here, and start going on a projectile. And ours start here and start running this way on a projectile. Now, they're aiming to go through the Christos seed atom. This is what's meant by splitting of the seed atom. Because what you have happen is this current coming down the middle, which is the gold, okay? It's actually the gold coming in from parallel, because remember, our D12 connects to parallel 13. Okay? So the parallel gold frequency comes down through our D8 gate, our D11 gate, our D8 gate, into the monadic core. Simultaneously, the parallel violet is coming in to 10, our gate 10, and coming over at this projectile, and simultaneously, you have the parallel blue coming over into gate 9 and coming down this way. And all at that same time, you also have the blue, the gold, and the violet from our primal light fields coming in this way. This intersects seed atom here through gate, it comes through our gate 7, from their parallel 1 to parallel 2 to our gate 7 to parallel 5, I believe is there, and then it hits the seed atom. Their violet's coming in from parallel 4 through our 4, which is Giza. All right, on the planetary level, it's Giza. Goes into hit the seed atom, and this one, the blue one, comes in through. It actually comes in through parallel 3 through our gate 10 and into the seed atom. So you get the seed atom is getting hit at the same time by all of these antimatter currents, and then the currents pass through it and keep going. So this current that came in, the parallel violet current that came in at our gate 10, goes through the seed atom and comes out in our gate 3. All right? So there's this whole grid activation that's taking place. It's hitting all of the stargates on both sides. And this sets in motion some fascinating things. I was amazed. And they were showing me, because a lot of this just came through visually, where I'd close my eyes and I'd see the pictures there. What is it doing? What is that? Hold that motion. Stop that motion. Right there. Okay, what does that look like? And I'm scribbling trying to get the images down. See, unfortunately, these don't come through in like pages where here's the graph, just close your eyes and copy it piece by piece. Oh, no. It's like little pieces that flicker on, you see it moving. They're like three-dimensional living things, and you have to slow them down, like take a picture of them in stages to get the linear stop time translation. So this is showing you the splitting of the seed atom. So the Christos seed atom splits and fragments, causing the Eros field. Now remember when we were in Dance for Freedom, we talked about the radial body, and we talked about the Eros field, which was a polarized field of D5 and D7 frequency that was inside the Miage field, but outside of the mental body level of the Huva bodies. Okay, this is the stuff we activate the silver sanctum when we were activating flame body, the first level, which was that silver sanctum Eros field, right, the Eros flame. So this is what they're talking about here, causing the Eros field, which is that field of polarized light within the Miage field, to depolarize, and the central point void field to open. So once this seed atom that's usually there and rotating, once all of these frequencies hit it, it fragments. And that fragmentation and those frequencies combining in the center point activate, literally on the universal level, activate the Eros flame body. They begin the process of the activation of the Eros flame body. They depolarize the D7 and D5 frequencies, and they become a D12 frequency, which opens the D12 Rheon field void in the center point. Okay? And you can just, all this is going to go down while we're sitting on the island, by the way. All right? Yeah. Yeah. This begins, I believe, I don't think I had the time on it, on this one, but I believe this begins about dawn on the 27th of May. Now, okay. Okay, as the D12 frequency enters the Vecca center, the center of the Vecca grid, the PCM and PKA electrical Merkaba spirals reach their peak spin speed. So when the D12 frequency coming in from the seed atom splitting and the void field opening and the Eros field activating, that causes the electrical Merkaba spirals in both the Particum and the Particate universe to hit their absolute peak spin. Like they were almost at peak spin already, and that was just the last kick. It gives them an extra kick. All right. Okay. When that happens, all electrical, dimensional, and density lock seals and signet crystal seals, which are the seals on the stargates as opposed to the seals on the dimensional locks, all right, begin sequential release. So it starts to release all of the seals in both the gates and the locks all at the same time. Talk about rapid flame body activation. Oh, boy. This is why they were giving us the flame body technologies, so we would be ready to ride through this. If not, what happens to beings if there weren't the Ark of the Covenant host field happening? When these frequencies came through, it does create something called a solar red pulse. A solar red pulse, it's a D1 pulse once it fulfills. It comes out D1. It's called red because red is the D1 frequency spectrum. A red pulse is a natural part of Hetharo, and it's a natural part of ascension cycles. It's only a problem if there's template damage, because what it does is barrel on through with the divine blueprint, and anything in its way that isn't divine blueprint, it puts it back to space dust. All right. Now, the host field that we'll get into in a little bit, that's called the Golden Fleece host field, frequency field, is what will prevent this, our planet and our universe from getting zapped back to space dust by red pulse. Now, the people that are running reverse Merkaba, their systems are going to get a partial red pulse because they're not running the frequencies that we're running, but they're connecting their seed atom. They force their seed atom into connection with ours in an unnatural metatronic bond. So their seed atom is going to get hit with the frequencies of this. So they're going to get partial red pulse, but not here. They're going to get it in their own systems, the black hole systems. So they're expecting some damage, but they're also expecting to do some damage. While this is happening, Now, I don't have the graphs to show the interface here, but while this is happening in our system with the natural currents that are coming through on Hitharo, at the same time, there's another series of currents. In fact, there's two other series of currents now that are going to come through. One is the flaming blue sword of Archangel Michael, the D13 base 8 reverse current coming from the Wisadek black hole. Then there's another beam of frequency that's not coming in directly, but it's coming in to hit at a certain angle the flame current, the sword currents when they come in order to reverse the polarity and the position of the flaming blue sword to make it the spear of destiny. While this is happening with us, the same thing, those things are going to be hitting our seed atom too. So there's going to be all of these currents coming in and crashing into the seed atom. I mean, it's what this is going to look like on the outside. I still wonder if there's, a little gasp here or there. You'd think there'd be like a volcano that went off or something, an earthquake, a little one even. It could be a big one. I mean, seriously, they'll let us know more as we get closer if it's going to be anything really big. From the dynamics of energy that are taking place, I kept looking at this stuff as they're giving it to me. All right, what is it going to look like out in the hologram? Like, will you tell me? Because these are not little energy activations, and they're not harmonic energy activations. If Hitharo was coming through on its own, that would be fine. But meanwhile, you have to deal with the blue sword current coming through, trying to reverse all of this stuff and get things to spin in the opposite direction. And you have the other current that's going to be running through the blue current that's trying to reverse the blue current and pull it someplace else. So, yes?
What do you tell the family and friends that are not into this?
Nothing. Tell them you love them. Be near them. Be frequency. The best thing you can do for people who don't want to hear it is be frequency. Be the flame and be near them. Transmit it to them.
Do you have a comment about being with your children, your young children, during this particular time? At one point earlier, you had commented that you would take your own children to Paxos.
We are.
Do you have any comment about people with young children, about where would you choose to be with them? If you couldn't take them with you to Paxos, would you stay home? That's really my question.
I don't know. It would depend on if I felt I was supposed to be in Paxos, that I had a commission there, I would know my children would be fine, and I would go. But I'm taking my kids, well, one of my kids with me, two of my kids actually, the older one's coming over, but one of them's not coming. But we can transmit. There's something nice about children of parents and things, because we're genetically linked through the physical gene code, as well as, like, very often through soul families. It's a physical gene code allows you, whatever is activating with you, you can actually transmit it to anything biologically directly linked to you. So this is one of the little override things we get to do as well, that it's not an infringement on free will. You send it through their own crystal spark, whereas means if their avatar doesn't want to do it, it's not going to accept the frequency. But you don't have to bring kids, and you don't have to stay home if you can't bring kids, is what I would say. I would trust what you feel is your calling as far as the Paxos trip. If you feel you're supposed to be there, just you personally, put everything else aside, this is between me and God. Do I feel that a long time ago I commissioned to be here at this time? Trust that and know that whatever arrangements you have to make will work out. Okay? So, yeah. Sure. Sure. Yes. Hey. Mm-hmm. Right. I get a feeling if he was supposed to be with you, he'd get an overwhelming urge to be there. Yeah. Yeah, there's a whole trust factor we all need to have in this. This is huge. This is a huge drama. And we are very, very old, all of us on this planet. All right? No matter what size of body or how old our body is right now. There's the avatars in all of us are making the choices at this point. There are some that are fallen avatars, and there are some people that will fall. But the funny thing is, most of the people that will fall came from there in the first place. There's a lot of people incarnate in human forms that don't belong in human forms, that aren't human. They did that in Atlantis through the Leviathan races, where they progressively got themselves into human gene code and progressively became human. And these are the guys that just love their bodies. Oh, they don't care what it looks like. They can have so much fun with it. They tend to go to extremes, just like, like sensation, pleasure. Think of like Caligula. Really weird, kind of like what would be almost abnormally into sensual appreciation of all sorts of ways, like pigging out on food, and like the Romans used to do this. They'd eat and eat and eat at their banquets, and then they'd have like a throw-up room to go get rid of it so they could eat some more. That kind of thing. There's a, oh yeah, life. Oh, I like this human body feel with a lot of these beings. So anyway, the ones that will fall are primarily going to be ones that were fallen in the first place. They're not going to be able to take the whole, they can't do what a normal human form would. So we don't have to be scared for the people that we care about. There's a whole level of protection from both sides. We have the Christos avatars of the beings over here trying to assist and guide all of us to where is the most important place for us to be, for the highest evolution, whatever, we agreed to do, basically, and whatever is in our best interest.